everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Ask Bill Keegan Show. And it's good to see you all again. Sorry I took a little bit of a summer hiatus from the show, but things have been very busy throughout the town. As you might expect, we're heading into the September season now, so things started to shift gears, and we're into full gear now and dealing with a lot of major issues across the town. All good things for the most part, but still a very, very busy time of year for us. So I have two special guests for the show today. First up will be Chief Ed O'Leary, who was the police chief in the town of Foxborough, has been the chief in this town for 31 years, and we're certainly glad to have him aboard here today. And then I want to get a little bit of a perspective from him today on this past season, for past concert seasons, because we've had a lot of entertainment up at Gillette Stadium this past summer. And my perspective is that I thought it went pretty well, but I certainly like to get his perspective on it because it's really, he's been involved in this business a lot longer than I have, and I wanted to see what his thoughts were. So Chief, welcome to the show, and
thank you for having me, Bill.
I appreciate it.
Certainly in terms of the concert season, we had scheduled and licensed 7 fairly large shows throughout the season. We've completed 6 of them. This coming Friday night, we have the Ed Sheeran show that now looks to be close to 50,000 fans attending, if not more. So we're in the process of prepping for that on Friday, followed up with, of course, a Revolution game Saturday night, and then into Sunday, where we have another home game with the Patriots. So right now we're really ramping up to have almost consecutive events. The Revs will have a bigger crowd tonight because they're tied for the top of the MLS in the East Division. They're a contender again, as last year. So we expect a crowd almost to 20,000 at the game on Saturday. Wow.
So it's a busy time of year, as we know, up there. We've got the Patriots, we've got UMass football, we've got the Revolution, and we've got concerts all in the same time. So I know the past few weeks have been really, really hectic up there. There's been a lot of different events back to back. This sounds like another week coming up where that's the case. I'm always amazed at how fast they're able to turn the stadium around into a different venue look just in that short period of time. Any thoughts about that?
Well, the operations group that does all the work to coordinate taking up the grass field from the Brazil-USA game, getting the regular field ready, then putting hard material down so they could build a stage for a show, and then get that all down so they could bring in the home opener on the 10th, for example, gives an idea of the complexity and the logistical issues that the stadium deals with, to have not just multiple shows, but multiple different types of events going on. That their group is really challenged, and again, they're able to do wonders.
It's been a very interesting thing for me to witness for the first time in my new role here. But I can tell you that I'm very, very much impressed by the work that they do, as well as the work that our own staff do. Meaning your police department, the fire department, and all this, and the Board of Health and the building department. All our major staff efforts that go into each and every event that occurs up at Gillette. And so, so by the numbers, Chief, how does this season look in comparison to some of the other seasons?
Well, in terms of our custodies for the first 6 shows, they're down slightly. In particular, compared to the country western show that we did last year, that had also been a significant reduction from the last time Kenny Chesney was in town. It was again a large drop. We were only doing about 73% of the numbers we had, which is a good 25–26% drop in terms of custodies. The staff has become more adept at judging situations and using alternatives, such as finding somebody that could take care of someone that's incapacitated by alcohol at these events. And given the fact that 2 of the shows that we did were actually back-to-back nights, that poses an additional challenge. Right. In fact, our season for the concert started back on June 18th, because that's when we had our first meeting with the county sheriff's office, as well as the 18 towns that provide manpower so that we can do major events at the stadium.
Right. I was really very much impressed by the presentation that Lieutenant Alan Haskell made to the department head group just a few weeks ago, which presented all the background work that goes into developing the stage, if you will, or the security measures taken for each of the events that occurs at Gillette. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes that most people never ever see, and I was very much impressed by the work that you do, your department does, and all the various towns around us that support you in this effort as well. I've been told, and you know, certainly you can back me up, is that Gillette is considered one of the safest venues in all of the NFL.
Well, when the NFL does their rankings and checks on the conditions, they actually have staff inspectors going out to verify that we're following the best practice guide. Mm-hmm. And very often, Gillette Stadium has been the top, at least in the top 5 mm-hmm. of the different venues across the NFL. Wow. And that's a combination of us giving support to meeting their needs that they request, and also for them to follow some strict guidelines on their internal operations as well.
Well, we know you work very closely with Team Ops from the Kraft Group and or NPS, and they certainly help coordinate with you on all the various staff level requirements. They're sort of like the non-law enforcement group that's up there that provides security measures for the stadium. That accompanied with the fire department's work on the EMS side, which we'll talk about another time. Right. I know that Chief Hatfield would like to join us at some point in the show. But just having said that, I'm very much impressed by the work that you have all done up there, and that you continue to evolve your approaches to how to deal with these major events, because they're really getting diverse. I mean, at one time it was just football, and now it's really evolved. And can you tell us a little bit about how you've seen it evolve in your time?
Well, it certainly has been some radical changes. Mm-hmm. Initially, in the 1970s, then Schaefer Stadium, and its different naming evolutions that we went through different right. owners for the Patriots after the Sullivans, mm-hmm. The stadium becoming under the ownership of Mr. Kraft and one of his business partners initially, and then taking it on under his own corporate direction, has changed. I think in the first 4 years that I was a patrolman, the only issue that we faced as a Foxborough police officer were the Patriot games. And then slowly but surely, new things were added, tried, see how they went. We did have 2 or 3 shows, concerts over a space of 3 or 4 years. Certainly the town gained a tremendous amount of notoriety when they opted not to license the Michael Jackson show, where one of the Sullivans themselves was part of the team that was trying to promote that show across the country. And many people liken the failure of that whole tour and the cost overruns that were assessed against the Sullivans as the reason they ended up having to sell the team. Mm-hmm. And initially the stadium, because of the losses caused by that business decision.
Well, we in many ways we're grateful for the fact that the team ownership has transferred, because since it has happened, we've seen 4 Super Bowls and multiple appearances in the AFC Championship game, and obviously the organization has evolved into one of the most successful in all of the NFL stadiums and venues throughout the country. And it is interesting to remember too that we're one of the only locations, rural locations or suburban locations in the country that has a stadium within it, as compared to most cities that have it in the urbanized areas. So what kind of a challenge does that pose for you as the chief of police in that regard?
Well, we have a very limited staff. We have a police force that's built on providing services to a community of 17,000, so that when we're adding different events at the stadium, people are being taken from the main job that they're doing and handling collateral duties. A few minutes ago, you mentioned the work that Lieutenant Haskell is doing ahead of the major events. A lot of that is recruiting, scheduling of staff from other agencies as well as internally, trying to work out some logistics in case we need additional supplies. You saw for the Country Western show, we had to create a whole new prisoner compound that we had been using because the stadium itself changed their footprint in terms of adding an additional building and taking up space we had used in the past. We had great help this year as an add-on from the IT department, and Aaron had his team assist us with putting together the technology in the booking compound for the Country Music Festival, the Kenny Chesney show, so that we were able to process people in a timely fashion. And we've developed a process and methods of dealing with people that are in custody that protect them, as well as making sure we get the information we need. And that's what we have to do in a town like Foxborough, where we don't have specific staff. I'll give you an example. I know Arlington has multiple sports teams, but they have a division that does nothing but the planning, staffing, and operation of major events. And all of us wear multiple hats. And again, and I've stressed to you, I work with some very talented people that are able to bring projects together, have them be successful, and more importantly, people that go to the shows get home safe, as do my staff and the workers at the stadium.
Well, I know that I always am one of the first persons to praise the work that you guys do collectively, all of our public safety staff in handling this, because it's a yeoman's task. It's something that most communities aren't used to seeing because now it's the varied types of events that occur there, not just the football venue, of course, but it's now it's the concerts, it's the soccer, it's the lacrosse, it's it's college football, which is all great things. I mean, I don't want to take away from the fact, I don't want to misstate that by saying that these aren't good things for the use of that venue, because I think they are. They're all great things. In many ways, it actually helps promote our community as a whole by having those events here. But it does obviously place a lot of burden upon your staff. It places a lot of burden upon all of our resources when we have events like that. But on the other side of that, we do bring in a lot of revenue for that as well. So that's the other side that we balance that with. So is there anything that you can recall about this particular season at all that you thought was something that we can continue to work and to improve upon in comparison to other years?
Well, I think every year is a unique year because we don't know the audience that will come. We've even seen a change to some extent with Taylor Swift. When her first appearance here, she was a fairly new person. This was her first stop on a concert tour, and her audience was much younger. We've seen a lot of the young people, especially young girls, have grown into more mature teenagers, so to speak. And as a result, some of their behaviors have changed. And with every act, it has a different audience. And even a show that might have one audience in a prior time period that they've been to the stadium, that audience might change for a variety of reasons and pose different problems that we have to adapt and deal with effectively.
I noted this year that the numbers were down with respect to the Country Western show as compared to other years, and I think that's probably true of what you just said, and of that crew as well, that group as well, that audience is starting to get a little bit older, a little bit more, and a little more regulated in its approach and handling of their behavior at these events, and that's certainly that's helpful to all of us. And it's also there are serious penalties for those who do act up at these events, and maybe you can talk about that, what that means for them.
Well, in terms of if they're season ticket holders for the football games, for example, if they're taken into custody or they're ejected by the team ops staff, then they lose the right to have that season ticket. And for some people that have had them for 20 years or more, even starting at the old stadium, that would be a tremendous shock.
Right.
And as a result, we have people that try to moderate their behavior when they know that something significant like that is at risk.
Right.
And I know that people themselves, and you bring up the Country Fest, as you mentioned, even Kenny Chesney's audience is getting slightly older,
Right.
and I don't think the spending all day in the sun playing beer pong or other drinking games that
Right.
they engage in has the same emphasis.
Right.
You've brought up a good point. Since the 90s, we've been a site of multiple international soccer games, going
Right.
back to the prep for World Cup, which was actually had 5 games here in Foxborough back in 1994.
Right.
And that was the first time we had a real international audience on a consistent basis. Followed up this year, we had the Gold Cup in July, and again the USA-Brazil right this past month.
Correct.
Less than 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So we've gained, I think, some recognition, not just within the NFL world,
Right.
which it helps when you're a Super Bowl champion
That's
for
right.
the recognition,
That's right.
but certainly recognition across the world because of a location where we've had a lot of international soccer. The Revolution was started at the old stadium and carried through here. And again, as they've improved each season, they're in contention again to get into the playoffs and hopefully participate in the finals against the Western winner and maybe bring home the cup this year for themselves.
Well, it's great to see that the Patriots are off to another winning season this year. It's great to see that the soccer team is the Revolution are in their winning ways again.
Right.
We hope they can actually win this title this time around. They've been there 7 times to the finals
Yes.
and haven't won it yet. So hopefully this will be the year that they can pull that off, and we wish them best of luck in doing that. But it just goes to show you that that's a place where we certainly have seen some really tremendous talent over the years, and that we hopefully will continue to see that. But I just want to say thank you to you and to your department and to all our public safety servants who provide services up at the stadium, and for the cooperation that we get from the stadium as well.
Right.
Because I think that should not go without saying that these having their cooperation and assistance in making this all work is what makes us one of the safest venues in all the NFL and for the entertainment venues as a whole. So,
Well, just in closing, I think you hit it on the head, Bill. It's a collaborative effort
right.
from the stadium management, the team ops security group, our agency, fire service, the state police that helps manage
Correct.
traffic along Route 1, and the supportive services they provide us. But it's all working towards a common goal, which is keeping people safe. And
Right.
for those audience members, fans of the Patriots, so that they go home safe, having a good time at the end of the day.
Well, Chief O'Leary, I appreciate you being here today, and thanks
Thank
for the
you.
update on the season, and hopefully we'll continue to stay safe up there, and I appreciate all the efforts that you're making up there to make sure that happens. I'll be right back in just a few minutes with my next guest, Bill Euchner, who will be giving us an update on the Town Hall project. Hopefully you'll stay with us. Thank you. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Ask Bill Keegan show. Here with me now is Chairman of the Town Building Committee, Bill Euchner. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for joining me today.
Glad to be here.
It's been some time since we've last talked about this particular topic, but I know that your committee's been working really hard to try and get to a formal presentation, a final presentation, if you will, for a town meeting, hopefully sometime in February for this particular project. But the Town Hall project has been front and center on your agenda for a number of weeks now, number of months. And can you tell us a little bit about where we're at this point?
Yeah. I think with the last vote from the Board of Selectmen on the final design changes and modifications, we're now at a point where we're actually having the documents for bidding finalized. It's probably a 6 to 8 week process as far as developing all of that. As you know, we're doing this process a little different than we've done others, and we basically want to go out to bid, get formal quotes, and actually walk into town meeting with knowing who the contractor will be. So in order to do that, we're actually developing the full construction documents right now, and then the full bid documents immediately after that.
Now that's a change in the project from what we've typically done when we go to town build new facilities. And tell us a little bit about why that's different.
Well, I think what we've done in the past is we've tried to come up with a best guess as to what any project was going to cost us. And then, assuming that the town approved it at town meeting, we would then go out and start the whole process of designing the building, developing the bid specs, going out and hoping we got a contract that hit the pricing. The library is a perfect example of how that can be a problematic situation, and that is we only had, in the end, one contractor who was able to actually meet the pricing that we had put together. Now, it was the low contractor. Obviously, we took the bid, but there was 3 other contractors that were above the price. So, you always run the risk that your best guess estimate isn't going to be high enough.
So tell us, Bill, I know that this process is a little bit different from what we've done in the past in terms of building facilities and new facilities in the town. Tell us why this process is a little bit different.
Okay, I think the general sense is that with the town hall, there's been some controversy on the cost of building it, and it's been a long time project coming forward. So instead of doing what we typically have done, which is to do our best guess on our cost, then go out to bid, and hope that our numbers are working out, what was committed to the town is that we would actually go through the entire process. They gave us the soft cost, which was the ability to engineer the building and to pull together the documents. And then when we walked back into town meeting, we would actually have firm contract numbers, and that's what we'd be asking the town to support. Rather than a guess, they would know that they were actual.
So can you walk us through the steps that have been taken since town meeting as what's been done so far?
Obviously, immediately after the town meeting, we hired the OPM, which was Vertex Companies, and we then immediately after that hired LLB Architectural.
OPM being an overall project manager.
It's your owner's project manager, and under the new state requirements, that is one of the first steps that you need to do. It's a requirement which obviously adds cost to the project, but it is also to safeguard the owners in that you manage the project appropriately. LLB Architectural, which is Learn, Ladd, and Bartels, we've worked with on the library project, so we do know them. They basically were the highest rated when we went through the RFPs on getting the designers. So we started the process working with them immediately. They basically committed up front that they were going to spend more time on the design, the schematic layouts and stuff to make sure that anything developed after that really reflected what the community wanted, what the town needed as far as offerings. And so they extensively did that for most of the spring time frame, and came back with a number of different options at every stage. I think we were in front of the selectmen a couple times with multiple exterior looks, multiple layouts, floor plan wise, stretching the building, shrinking the building, from side to side, adjacencies, and really tried to make sure that in the end the design that they moved forward would be the appropriate design.
How many meetings has your committee had this up to?
Oh, easily we're into the 18 or so between the different boards and ourselves.
So clearly this has not been taken lightly. This is a very detailed process. The architects have been fully engaged since they've been authorized to proceed. Yep. One of the things that during the presentation of this project to town meeting, I remember quite clearly that folks wanted to make sure that whatever building we designed had the look and feel of an historic building to be located here in this community. So do you think you'll be able to capture that with this design?
Well, I hope so. I think one of the first things we had to do once we unveiled the initial concept was to go in front of the Downtown Review Board, which is a committee that's made up of people that are really concerned of what the downtown reflection is as far as any building. And they had a number of comments really wanting us to pick up on the Memorial Hall rock face and the cistern behind the town hall, really wanting the colonial design as far as windows and trim, even as far as wanting a cupola to really basically bring back exactly what they feel is really the surrounding design of Foxborough. And you know, we went through a couple meetings with them, and I think we were able to meet their needs, and then moved on to the planning board to do the same thing. So I think we've been able to vet, you know, the design and the concept out to make sure we got that look that, you know, I think people will enjoy. I think you can put 10 people in a room on what you consider colonial, right, and probably get 10 different opinions. But in the end, I think we've probably hopefully gathered the common themes in every area.
Well, as folks can see from the design of the building and the look of the building, that I think it really does a nice job of capturing the historic feel. That's my personal take on it, but as you know, there are people have different varying opinions of how that looks, but I think generally speaking, there was a really fine effort made towards trying to achieve that look, and I appreciate the fact the community did the work that they did. Walk us through a little bit of the process that you used with the various town boards and committees in order to reach the point that you're at right now.
Okay, as I said, we started with a design, with a schematic design, which is your floor plan thing, and because any building on the outside is only going to reflect what your inside floor plan looks at. Once we had that done, and we went to the Board of Selectmen basically to show them what the options were, they honed it down to the option that they wanted us to move forward with. The exterior design, you know, was then layered on top of that as to this is what, you know, those designs would look. And again, so once we got the approval from the Board of Selectmen, our next move was to the Downtown Review Committee, and then after that, the Planning Board, back to the Board of Selectmen, because along those lines, every one of those boards has a right and did have changes that they wanted us to make. So the plan is a living document. It continues to move and change throughout the entire process. So in the end, we felt until we were at the very end, we need to come back at the selectmen at that point saying, okay, here's all the adjustments that have been made by other boards from what we originally started with, and this is where we stand today. Are you in agreement?
So given all the work that's been done at this point, of course, the biggest question in the room is, okay, how much? What's it going to cost? What's the projected cost at this point?
The cost based on the schematic design alone, and again, when you think about a schematic design, just think about a drawing or a picture. It doesn't have any true details behind it. You don't know exactly what the heating system is going to be. You don't know how the electrical is going to lay out. That type of stuff, what kind of flooring, particular flooring you're going to use. So at the schematic design, our first bid came in at 9.3 million, 9.4 million. We knew that wasn't going to meet the requirements. We went in and actually fine-tuned and said, okay, we've selected the heating system, so that gave the cost estimators a more precise item to actually start to bid against and figure out their cost on. And we made a few other adjustments by being able to reduce the size because of that heating system adjustment. And we were able to bring the price down to the $8.3 million number. And again, that's just based on an estimate of what the thing looks like today. We will get another estimate probably within a couple weeks that will be the cost estimate based on 50% of now bid documents and construction documents. So now we're starting to work out the details. You know, exactly what the windows are, exactly what the brick surfaces are, roofing and stuff. So the pricing starts to get more and more finite now because you have more and more detail for the cost estimator to work from.
And then ultimately, the final number is going to be the proof in the pudding, if you will be when we actually go out to bid. Right. And then we go back to town meeting with this is the number. Right. And so hopefully it'll stay within the numbers that we talked about. It's running a little bit higher than we originally estimated, I think, but that's also a factor that's been a sign of the times that we're in right now, because it looks like the economy has picked up a little bit, and a lot of the contractors are busy. Yeah,
and that's actually even the cost estimators, when we questioned why our square foot pricing was higher than what we've seen on the last few projects. Both the cost estimators and even the owner's project manager have said on current jobs or recent jobs that they've seen in the last 9 months, 6 months type of thing, that the pricing has really reflected the fact that it is warming up as far as the trades are going. Because of the long downturn we had, many of the companies don't have as large a crew base. We used to always use the term they have an A team, a B team, and a C team. Well, a lot of them got rid of their C teams. They only have an A and a B team, and now they're pricing appropriately. If they get the work, they get it. If they don't get it, then they don't have the resources to extend themselves any further anyway. So we're not on the right end of the curve typically for the construction industry, but again, I think we're going to hopefully get some competitive bidding based on when we go out to bid.
So what's left to do at this point in time?
Actually, it's really now we're down to the final things of completing the construction documents and going out to bid. We will be out to bid sometime in probably, actually put the documents out on the street probably sometime right after the holidays, because that's a bad time to try to do it between Thanksgiving and Christmas. You tend to lose a lot of contractors who aren't paying attention.
Right.
And so that's the only reason we're really pushing it out a little bit further than what we could do. And that way we'll be available in the early.
Well, I know that your group has been working really hard on this. I know LOB and our owners, project managers as well, they've been working very, very hard to get this where we want it to be. When do you think this project will be presented at the town meeting?
Our hope is that the middle of February we'll be coming in with all of our final numbers for a vote at town meeting. So I think, obviously we have some work to do before that and try to get some publications out as soon as we have information that's hard facts. As I said, there's 2 more cost estimates that will come out between now and that time frame. But as you said, those are just estimates. The real proof will be when the actual bids come in from the contractors.
Right. Well, I want to thank you for being here today. I think your information and update has been really helpful. I mean, I know that question has been emerging and has been floating around town for a little while, and I just hopefully this will help folks to understand the process and where we're at this point in time. It's pretty normal to go through this process now. This is not unusual to have sort of a lull in between when the design phase goes forward, and then when some of the decisions are making internally to try and get the building to where it should be. So I'm very comfortable with the process that's been done so far. So I appreciate you being here today to help with the residents to understand where we're at.
Thank you very much.
So thanks for being here today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So that puts a wrap on today's show, and I want to thank you all for being here today for another version of the Ask Bill Keegan Show. Hopefully I'll be back next month and with some other interesting topics that you'd like to hear about. And if you have a specific issue that you'd like to contact me about, or if you'd like to have a topic for the discussion on the show, feel free to email me at wkeegan at Foxborough, spelled the old-fashioned way, or with the O-U-G-H at the end, at foxboroughma.gov, and I'll be happy to consider that for the next show. Until then, see you next time.